What up guys, Supermel983 here bringing us another album review, and this time we've got some monolithic sounding deathcore for you to check out today. But yeah, I'm going to be reviewing the new album from the band Wyattxhim Providence entitled Eternity. This is going to be released on October 21st through Unique Leader Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with Wyattxhim Providence, they are a 4-piece deathcore band hailing from the US, and I first got in touch with this band quite a while back when I first discovered them on their second EP, which was called Insidious, which came out in 2015. And that release is an absolute masterpiece. It's more of a, I would say it's more influenced by the sounds of that time with down-tempo deathcore and beatdown in there. But it still is just straight up heavy as fuck deathcore. So if you want a quick release to check out from these guys, definitely check that one out. They released another version of Insidious not too long after in 2017 called Insidious Phase 2, which had their former vocalist called, this little vocalist called Will Ramos, who we all know from Lorna Shore. He did vocals on this release, and the difference in contrast is absolutely incredible, but at the same time both vocalists lay it down on this release. But yeah, Phase 2 I would definitely say is a little bit better. And they released a single with Will as well called A Darkened Gospel, which is, in my opinion, one of the best tracks this band has released. And if you are a fan of Will's work in Lorna Shore, I highly urge you to go and check out that song. It's fucking incredible. But the main release that I particularly love was their second album, which came out, I believe, 2019, which is called Black Sun, The Blood Moon, which is this one right here. Now, me and my bassist in my band, Caelan Tephra, link down below, we absolutely adore this album. It was one of the first albums that I gave him when we were getting started with Caelan Tephra. He was like, oh, give us some albums to check out, and I was really digging this album at the time, so I gave him this, and it's become an absolute gem between one of us, between the both of us. And if you haven't checked it out, make sure you check it out, because this is an underrated deathcore masterpiece, if you ask me. It's brutal, it's punishing, but it's also got a lot of melody and a lot of just wow factors to it, so I'd highly recommend if you haven't checked this out. But yeah, but we're going to fast forward to 2022, when the band announced that they'd signed to Unique Leader Records, and they released a single to celebrate this called God Killer. And I could tell straight away that this band was more evolving their sound into a new lease of life for the band. And I was like, okay, new chapter for the band under a new label, releasing God Killer. I was like, okay, something intense is coming right now. And then we get to 2022, late 2022, and we get the arrival of Eternity. So yeah, it's 9 tracks and runs around 43 minutes in length, and I can safely say, with my hand on my heart, that this is easily the best Wyattxhim Providence have sounded, like, in their entire career. Like, this album, in my opinion, encapsulates everything I've loved about this band and just added more to it. And this album, I would definitely say it still has that Wyattxhim Providence, like, energy and sound that you've come to know and love. It's got the humongous bass tone, it's got the crunchy guitars, it's got the intense diabolical vocals, it's got it all there. But now they've added more melodic elements, more blackened elements, and also to add already onto that dark, demented atmosphere, you've got symphonics scattered throughout this entire album, which is a thing that kind of really surprised me, but didn't surprise me at the same time, because it seems like modern deathcore is definitely going for that more blackened, more darker sort of atmosphered, you know, deathcore with the likes of like Lorna Shore and all that, really adding it overall to create more atmosphere. And I'm not saying that Wyattxhim Providence is trying to copy Lorna Shore, because I honestly feel like these have become their own flagship band, and I absolutely adore what they're doing on this album. I would actually compare it, I wouldn't actually compare it to the likes of Lorna Shore sound. I would actually more compare it to the likes of Septic Flesh, for example, or even Dimmu Borgir, for example, because it really the music in itself is its own standpoint and presence within the record, but it's not submerged, it's not forced back behind the synths. The synths are there to create the atmosphere surrounding the music on here, and it really shows a lot more attention to detail, because a lot of records, especially in the symphonic territory, like, you know, with symphonic power metal, for example, or even death metal and stuff like that, you can really feel like that it's just drums, synth, and the guitars and the vocals are like pushed back in the mix, and it makes you think, like, where is the fucking metal here? Like, it's fast drums, but where is the fucking metal? Whereas this record is the epitome, in my personal opinion, and the quintessential of what a symphonic extreme metal record should sound like, and this, I think, perfectly encapsulated, especially with the first song that they dropped on this record, which is The Horror of the Old Gods, which I knew this record was going to smash, and hearing that first song, this was just before I got the promo, I was like, okay, this is absolutely fucking massive. This is Wyattxhim Providence, the Black Sun, just moved more, like, okay, let's take a massive leap ahead and just get the most biggest sounding record we can do. And I feel like, personally, this is one of the biggest sounding records of this year. And they also dropped another single, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, going from the intro, an Odyssey Through the River Overture, like, that's like sombre sort of intro, kind of like leading you into this, like it honestly feels like the start of a fucking movie, like, listening to it. It's just so epic, and just it just feels like it's building up to something mega, and then it builds up to the horror of the old gods, and you're just like, oh wow, right, here we go. And from that moment, it doesn't let up. Throughout this entire record, it is just pounding after pounding, but it is also blistering in some elements. Don't get us wrong, there's blast beats, there's breakdowns, there is a lot here. So when it comes to deathcore, this is definitely a record that's going to make you go, it just gets submerged and immersed into the record, and it really grabs your attention because of how well it's very well mixed on here. I will say it, excuse me, drum work is absolutely fantastic. I definitely think this is some of the best sounding drum work I've heard so far in Wyattxhim Providence's discography. The blast beats, there's a lot of groove in there, but it also, some of the moments where it's just simple guitar bits, and there's like these tasteful fills leading, connecting up the dots of the guitar bits being spread out. Just the staccato, machine gun-esque breakdown. Sorry, got a little bit of an itchy nose going on. But anyway, so that those breaks and just those fills just feel so well executed and just sound absolutely incredible. And I will say, the bass work, it doesn't say that there's a bassist in like the description of the band, but the bass work is one thing that I've always identified with Wyattxhim Providence and my bassist as well, because it's got that clanky, just punishing tone on it that just on the last record it really cut through like an extreme, and I do mean an extremely sharp knife. Like, it was really present and upfront, but it gave the record a lot of character, whereas this record, it still has that tone, but it's a little bit more submerged back in the mix. Like, it feels more warmer around the guitars. Like, it felt a bit more punishing on the Black Sun, but it just feels a little bit more maturely mixed, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not dissing the Black Sun in any way, but it just feels a lot more well mixed, shall I say. And then we'll move on to those punishing guitars. Those punishing guitars, those riffs, this is easily some of the best riff writing I've heard. Like, they've got some real technical passages on this record, like very oriented in tech death. Like, you can see why Unique Leader, being like a label that's had a lot of tech death over the years, and some of the best tech death on the planet over the years, signed to the label, that they would be interested in those kind of riffage. But Unique Leader is definitely finding the crispiest and best best deathcore bands on the fucking planet, and Awakening Providence definitely fit into that category, so they find themselves at home with the unique leader. But the tone in general is just absolutely crushing. Like, it sounds absolutely amazing, very crisp, but still very chunky, and it just adds to the overall heaviness of it. And then, I mentioned this because this is a re-upload. I did mention in my review that I thought Adam Mercer was the one who did the vocals for it, and I was wrong. So I'm going to correct myself on that. It's DeAndre, the guitarist, and he also does the orchestrations for this record, which I will say, as I've already said, props on the symphonics on this album. But the clean vocals is something that kind of surprised me in a way, because I'm sure they were on Black Sun, but they weren't as overly present. Like, there was a couple of tracks, whereas on this album there's a lot more present. I wouldn't say it's up there with the likes of say for example Whitechapel sort of territory, where it's clean and sombre and all that sort of stuff. It has a lot more power behind it, and a little bit more, it just adds that overall more epicness to the overall sound. Like, it's like, and I'll get to Adam's vocals in a second, but it just creates that another bit of atmosphere and just makes the record just stand out that little bit more, and it even more reminds us of the likes of Septic Flesh, for example. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. And then we get to the titan himself, Adam Mercer. He is quite a well-renowned vocalist nowadays in deathcore, and yeah, this is definitely his best performance I've heard so far. Like, he's just got such a unique tone to his voice. Like, it just sounds very raspy, but very intense. And then when he goes to that darker place, I'm talking about the gutturals and, you know, the filth-ridden, just vermin-infested vocals on the breakdowns. And there's some parts where the symphonic like carries over it, but there's some parts where it's just guitars, drums, bass, and vocals, and it's just like, it's just filled with so much wretchedness, it makes you want to vomit. Like, especially listening to this album near enough on full blast, when I was going down to, I think I was going on my way down to Derby, and I was like saying to me bass, like, we're going to listen to the new Awakening Providence because you love it, and he agrees that it's an absolutely incredible album as well. But hearing it in full, with a full surround like sound, because I listen to it from my speakers, on my earphones, that's all well and good, but when you get to a really good car stereo and those bass drops hit, it just pounds you. Absolutely fucking incredible. And yeah, and I will also say, I don't usually talk about this a lot, and I really should, because, you know, I'm an album reviewer, but I want to make a little comment on the artwork, because I feel like the artwork is absolutely incredible, and I think his name's Caelan, I think his name is. I'll leave links down below where you can check it out. But his work, he's done a lot of great works over the years. But I absolutely love the artwork. It really encapsulates the overall sound, what you're in for. It's dark. It's got that sort of like, just blackened sort of feel to it, like looking at the artwork. So you're like, okay, what's Awakening Providence got coming forth here? Are they going black and deathcore? Which, personally, I wouldn't say it's black and deathcore, because I really don't think, as I said, it sounds like Lorna Shore, or even like The Breathing Process, or anything like that. I think this more falls into the same sort of category as the likes of Shadow of Intent, for example. I would say it's more symphonic deathcore orientated, but need it not be said when it comes to genres, and we're not going to tag it as much. I would personally say this is just a phenomenal metal record, and one of the best records. The more I hear it, the more I fall in love with it. Every track on this album just absolutely pounds into the fucking ground, and I honestly feel like it's the best Awakening Providence record so far. I absolutely love it. I can't get enough of it. It's absolutely incredible. For an overall score, I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Absolutely incredible. It just feels like I wish it could have been a little bit longer. That's just my personal opinion. But for what it is, for 43 minutes and 9 tracks, it delivers on all fronts. make sure you check this album. It's absolutely incredible. There'll be links down below of where you can pre-order it, and also make sure you check out the artist in question and just the tracks that they've released, because they've also released, I was meant to get to this, We Are Eternity is the second single that they dropped, and it's one of my favourite songs on the album, but The Horror of the Old Gods is definitely probably my favourite. But I also love The Hunt of the Wraith, and which is there's a 3-part like track, I guess you could say. It's like first movement, second movement, and final movement, which is The Hunt of the Wraith, The Book of the Eldritch, and The Court of the Trinity. I thought that's what it said. But yeah, make sure you check this out when it comes out. It's going to absolutely slap, and I can assure you it's not going to disappoint you. Make sure you check it out down below. And I'll see you until the next video. Make sure to subscribe and check out my Super Metal Riffs for Days playlist on Spotify down below. I'll see you until the next video. And remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.